Alright, we're just about ready to go to the gym. Want to start off today's video reminding you guys about the 5,000 subscriber mark that we're aiming for. At 5,000 subscribers, free sprint program gets released. It's a full download program, 8 weeks long, 5 days a week, out on the track. You've got resisted sprints, you got max velocity work, you got a little bit of conditioning. Everything is laid out in the program for you guys to get to the point where you are the fastest version of yourself. That program becomes free at 5,000 subscribers. We need just over 1,000 more subs on the channel for that to happen. So if you're here, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment for the algorithm. I'm going to knock out the pre-workout. And let's go work out. So what I do at the beginning of all my sessions is I come to the whiteboard, I write down what it is I'm going to be doing for the day. I make some adjustments if I do make those adjustments, and then I'll either take a photo of it, or if it stayed the exact same way, I just erase it and I'm done for the day. But my process when I'm developing programs, and the program that I have been running for myself for the past 12 weeks, that'll end up being a 16-week cycle, is the same program that I'm going to be releasing on my subscription program. So the way that I go through my process as I'm programming these things is I have a Google sheet that I input everything on the computer. Everything is in ranges. So I have like 2 to 5 sets, 3 to 6 reps. Like I don't have a very set specific thing that I want to do. Then when I get here, based on how I'm feeling, I start to narrow down those ranges to more specific sets and reps. And then as I'm going through the workout, I make those final adjustments. I'll go back to the Google sheet after the training session is done and input it the exact way that I did that prior to uploading it to the Fitter app, which then goes to everybody who is subscribed and following that program. So what I thought would be cool to do is kind of break down why I do what I do, the order that I put everything in before we get into today's session. This being the kind of like potentiation block towards testing for new numbers, I have the most intense exercises set up to try to elicit an adaptation that's going to allow me to produce force at the maximum rate that I can produce force, to be very explosive, to be very powerful. So today's focus is we're introducing true plyometrics today. So the first thing we're gonna do is depth jumps. My depth jump research has all came from Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky, who's the guy that basically invented the term plyometrics, invented the training methods of plyometrics. He has a really good book called The Shock Method that kind of breaks down plyos, all the progressions leading into it, what you should be focusing on, the benefits of it. There's a bunch of case studies, everything is in that book. But what he recommends through his, and what I've also found that works, is 40 repetitions on depth jumps is going to be kind of the recommended dose for a single session. So I'm going to be doing 4 sets of 10 on the depth jumps today. Then we're going to go into a high box squat with using bands, and we're going to partner that up today with box jumps. So kind of a 2-pronged approach to creating some more power. So we're going to do the banded box squat, and we're going to partner that up with box jumps. My handwriting looks awful right now, by the way. We're going to do 6 sets of 3, 6 sets of 3. So that'll be 1, that'll be 2. The 6 sets of 3, so like an RPE of 7. And then box jumps are just going to be body weight, so there's no RPE range on that. After I finish box squat and the box jumps, I'm going to move on to my accessory work. And I'm going to move over to this side because I feel like riding like this kind of sucks. So I'm going to move over to my accessory work. I've only got 2 accessory movements that I want to do today. So one is going to be a B stance trap bar. We're going to do 3 sets of 5 on each side, keeping that relatively lighter. So like RPE on this would be like a 6 to 7. And then we're going to always follow that up with Nordics and probably do 3 sets of 5 on the Nordics as well. This breakdown of the session, order of operations, is I'm always going to start a session off with some sort of a jump, especially on my lower body days. I feel that that prepares me better for the first movement that I'm going to be going in. This second section here is my primary. That primary is the most important focus of the day. This is what I need to get done and what I have to focus on getting done and is the most important for me. And then my accessory work or my secondary is very general. B stance trap bars, a little bit of a single leg focus type work into my lower body day, followed off with some hamstring work. Nordics are always going to be my go-to for the hamstrings. And then later on this week, we'll do the same type of setup. We'll have some sort of jump, we'll have our primary focus, and then we'll have accessories that are going to hit specific joint angles or muscle groups that I want to hit. But this allows me, you're doing the most intense thing first. Even though banded box squats are going to be hard and heavy, intensity on this depth jump is the most intense thing that I'm doing. So high CNS rate, this is going to be the biggest requirement in terms of producing force for the day. So you always want to start off with what's your most explosive, highest recruitment type movement first. Follow that up with your primary lift, which for me is going to be the band box squat and the box jumps. And then your secondary, a lot of times I go into this, I do my jumps, I'll do my primary, and then I switch up my secondary because I feel like something else is going to benefit me more. Maybe an idea pops in my head while I'm doing the box squats and the jumps. And I'm like, you know what, rather than doing this movement, I'll do that. So this secondary stuff isn't as important as the primary. So this will definitely be here today. This may change as we get there, but that's kind of how I break it down. And then the last rule that I normally have for any session in the weight room is I don't really want to do more than 6 movements. So here we've got 5, which falls within that range. The lowest I go is probably like, I'll do a session with 3 movements. So sometimes I might just come in, I would do depth jumps, banded box squats, box jumps, and then if I don't have enough time, or if I just don't feel like I have the energy to do it, rather than doing kind of jump volume at the end of a session, you could throw that out and you'll still have a really good session. So that's going to be the focus for today. I'm going to set up the boxes. We're going to start working on those depth jumps. All right, warming up for the depth jumps. What you really need to focus on is just preparing your body for the impact that you're going to be hitting when you get to the ground. So I'll do the same thing I normally do for a lot of my jumping, as I just start off low, start to introduce that movement, start building up as an intensity, and then get to the point where I feel like I'm going to be at my first working set, and I'll just start set number 1. So what I start off with really is just preparing for that impact. So I'll do some drops, and then after I've done a few drops, I started going into a little bit of a rebound. And then we'll just start stacking the box up until we get to the height that I think I'm going to be at for my first set. So what I think I'm going to do is probably build up to around 50 centimeters on my drop, and then do a set of 10, maybe do 2 sets of 10 to 50, a couple sets at 60, but we'll do 4 sets total of 10 reps, so we'll get our 40 reps in for the day, and then based on how things are feeling, we'll just kind of figure out where that starting point is going to be. All right, also probably worth stating what the difference between a depth jump and a drop jump is. Sometimes coaches will intermix those two to be one and the same. They're not. The focus of each of those is a little bit different as you hit the ground. So if you're doing a drop jump, you want a much stiffer, much more shallow joint angle when you hit the ground, and the focus is trying to get off the ground as quickly as possible. So a drop jump also usually doesn't incorporate the arms. So when you see people doing jumps with their hands on their hips, that's more than likely going to be a drop jump. You're thinking about touching the ground and getting off the ground as quickly as possible. Then is going to make it to where your jump height isn't going to be as high, because the focus is about quickness off the ground, not about getting up off the ground as high as possible. So arms will be out of the equation. You're going to think about stepping off the box and just pop hopping off the ground as quickly as possible. A depth jump, you're gonna incorporate your arm swing, and you're gonna have a little bit more deeper range of motion as you make contact with the ground. You're thinking about getting as much height on each of those jumps as you can versus just trying to get off the ground as quickly as possible. So a depth jump, you'll see a little bit more time on the ground, a little bit more bend in the knee, possibly more bend in the hip as well. Arm swing comes through and you're trying to get up off the ground as high as you can. Drop jumps are more intense with that impact on the ground because you're maintaining that stiffness, you're not allowing that knee to bend as it hits the ground, and you're trying to get off the ground as quickly as possible. Depth jumps, ground forces, depending on the height that you're going from, are generally going to be a little bit less, but you're also spending more time on the ground because you will have a little bit more bend in the knee, and you're trying to get that maximum height on each jump. So we're focusing on depth jumps today, so you'll see arm swings, the maximum height on each of those jumps as we go today. So I'll probably start at about 50 centimeters on my first set today, jumping up to about 3 boxes. So I'll take another red box, I'll put it on top of here, and then I'll do my drop from this side off of a 50 centimeter box.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down.
And then there you have it, that's set number 1. Rest in between sets should be to full recovery. So 4 sets of this, like a 3 to 4 minute rest in between. Next set, we're gonna do again at 50 centimeters.
Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
Alright, last 2 sets, we're gonna go from 60 centimeters, 10 centimeters higher, 2 sets at 50, 2 sets at 60. I think will be a good amount of intensity for doing these for the first day. Eventually, I'm probably gonna be building this up to about 1 meter to a little bit over 1 meter over the course of the next 3 weeks as we continue doing these. Another quick tip with the depth jumps, as your drop height becomes higher, you need a little bit more space in between where you drop from and the box that you're dropping off of, because you're going to be falling forward as you go. You're not just dropping straight down to the ground. Even if you try to drop straight down to this position here, it's not going to happen because you're stepping off. You're always going to have that little bit of a forward momentum, and then as you jump, you're swinging your arms, and that's going to kind of carry you forward on top of the box. So make sure you got enough space in between your drop box and the box that you're jumping on top of.
Watch the game change. Watch the game change, yeah. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. I do not gamble, but bet on me. Tell them this life, yeah, it's la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy.
Alright, next thing we're gonna do a box squat with bands. The box height is going to be a little bit higher than what we've been using in previous weeks. The load on the bar is going to be much higher. But I've been using just a black band on the bar. I think today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a black band and a red band to have a little bit more band tension. And then we're gonna load the bar up with probably about 180 to 190 kilos today. We'll do our set of 3 on the band squat. So we're gonna be above 90 degrees, thinking about driving as hard as we can, moving that bar up and down as quickly as possible, and then trying to produce as much force as possible. Then we're gonna take about a 30-second break, and we're gonna move over to a box jump, and we're gonna try to mimic that same motion as that squat, so I'm not going to be doing like a deep range and trying to jump. I'm going to try to mimic that same range of motion on this box jump, and we're going to do 3 box jumps after we did our 3 box squats. What's going to happen is load up the bar with the band tension, and let's say we got 190 kilos. That's going to be well over 200 kilos of resistance on the bar in total, and you're trying to explode that bar up as hard as you can. Rack the bar, you come over here, you go through that same motion, and what's happening is your central nervous system is thinking, I need to move 200 plus kilos as quickly as possible. But now that I have just my body weight that I'm doing, it's thinking 200 kilos, and I'm just 100 kilos. So that should make it feel like these box jumps are able to kind of explode off the ground much quicker than just doing regular sets of box jumps. I always like to use an example, trying to pick something up that you thought was heavy and it ended up not being heavy. One example that comes to my mind is I used to work at a moving company during the summers when I was in school, and we would have boxes labeled as dishes. And dishes are, once you put them in a box, are very heavy. Those things can weigh 50, 60, 70 pounds depending on what type of dishes are in the box. So we had one that was sitting on top of a table. It was labeled dishes. I'm expecting it to be a heavy box, so I'm going up to go pick it up, and I've already picked up 10, 15, 20 other boxes labeled dishes, so I know what I think this should feel, and then I go to pick it up, and there happens to be no dishes. It was just labeled, but it hadn't actually been loaded with dishes yet, so I'm thinking this is going to be the same weight as it was previously. I go to pick it up and almost throw it in the air because it was just an empty box. That's kind of the same thing that goes through when you're doing this type of stuff. Is you've done a certain load, repetitions multiple times, your nervous system is adapted to that, it goes over here, prepared to do the same thing, and all of a sudden, boom, it's firing off at rates with lighter loads, able to kind of explode at a higher rate. So that's an example. It's not the exact same, but that always pops in my head when I do any kind of contrasting sets, because I remember that time I went to go pick up the box I thought was heavy and it wasn't, and I like almost fell over because I was so prepared to kind of pick it up that it ended up just flying out of my hands. I'm gonna do some warm-up sets, load up the bar to what I feels like gonna be like a RPE of 7, and then we're gonna knock out 6 sets of 3. The rest between 30 seconds, the rest after should be about 3 to 4 minutes. Accessory movements today is going to be a B stance, trap bar deadlift. All B stance mean, like B stance, staggered stance, same thing. What it means is you're going to have one foot in forward, other foot behind you, and more of just a supporting role for balance. It's the majority of the work is going to be done on that front leg, so a little bit of kind of like non-true unilateral work, although we're still focusing on working one leg at a time. This is going to be more of a strength movement, so we're not really focused on the same thing like we did with the back squat. We're not trying to move this bar as quickly as possible. Just try to get a little strength movement, try to maintain that quality as we continue to build on the explosive power throughout this block. So we'll do 3 sets, 5 reps on each side, and then we're going to move over to the Nordics. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we're going to be back at it tomorrow. Upper body day in the gym, focusing a lot of similar qualities that we were focusing on today. So I'll see you tomorrow.